Welcome to Adhvaitha. We will discuss three important theories on the nature of reality from ancient India. These are Sristi Dristi Vada, Dristi Sristi Vada and Ajata Vada. And through the understanding of these three theories, we will understand the nature of reality. Let us start with Sristi Dristi Vada. Here, what we need to understand is Sristi refers to the universe, Dristi refers to consciousness, and Vada refers to theory. So the Sristi Dristi Vada tells us that the universe came first and consciousness emerged after that. This is the simple philosophy of materialism, and this is what is modern science is based on. According to this theory, the universe evolved, and after a certain point in the evolution of the universe, consciousness came into picture in the more evolved species. And consciousness is simply a consequence of evolution, and consciousness is simply an emergent property of matter. This is a simple premise of materialism, which gives more prominence to matter and tells us that consciousness emerges from matter. Now let us look at the second theory, which is the Dristi Sristi Vada. This tells us consciousness is first, the universe is second. Consciousness is fundamental, universe is emergent. And according to this theory, whatever we experience outside of us is simply a projection of our own consciousness. And this theory also gives importance to the mind and the activity of the mind and how our mind creates our reality and creates our experiences of life. So, according to Dristi Sristi Vada, what we need to understand is that the individual consciousness is fundamental and it gives rise to the life experiences and the appearance of the world. Now, after these two theories comes Ajata Vada. Ajata Vada tells us that the world is technically not created. This is where it gets really interesting. Ajata Vada tells us that the universe simply appears to exist. It doesn't have an independent reality of its own, and it derives its existence from God or pure consciousness. This theory might sound very radical at first, but I think this is the most profound teaching that has come to humanity. So let us explore the theory of Ajata Vada. And to be clear, this is not a theory. This is what is said to be the truth by our ancient rishis and yogis. So according to this Ajata Vada, the universe only appears to exist. It doesn't have an independent existence of its own. To understand this better, let us talk about the creation of the universe. So within this universe, for something to exist and for something to come into existence, there needs to be a source for it. There needs to be a source of creation. This is how it works within the universe. And this is how it works within the time-space reality. Swami Vivekananda explained this with a simple example. He said, for a tree to come into existence, there needs to be a seed. So for the universe to be in this way and for the universe to emerge, there needs to be a creator, or there needs to be a source at least. What some of the modern scientists are telling us about the creation of universe is that this universe came from nothing. So before the creation of the universe, there was absolutely nothing, and from that nothing, spontaneously the universe came into being. This is obviously not logical, but this is what the data indicates, they say. So let us try to go deep into this to understand what is happening here. If we think about it deeply and if we look at it with pure logic, something simply cannot come from nothing. So for something to come into being, there needs to be something else before that. But from our perspective and from the perspective of some research and from the perspective of some scientists, it seems that the universe came from nothing. But logically, this cannot happen. Something cannot come from nothing. What the ancient Upanishads tell us on this topic is that the universe as it is right now came from something which is very subtle. It came from a pure intelligence which is beyond time, space, and causation. So, before the creation of the universe, there was simply pure consciousness, which is very subtle, which is pure intelligence, which is of a different dimension altogether. Since this pure consciousness is very subtle, it appears as nothing to the human mind. It appears that the universe came from nothing, because that nothing is technically not matter. It is not an object. So it is technically not a thing, but it is not nothing also. So it is something which is beyond existence and non-existence. It is something which is beyond matter and non-matter. So something very subtle was the source of creation, was that in which the universe emerged and the universe was projected. And the name given to this subtle entity is God. This is what we need to understand. When we say God, immediately our mind projects an image. We try to impose our limitations on God and we try to personify God. But if we go beyond that and look at the concept of God logically, we will begin to understand what God actually is. God is simply that subtle intelligence which is the source of all creation, from which the universe emerged. And this is beyond time, space, and causation. And this pure consciousness is from which the universe emerged. Now, this pure consciousness was there before the creation of the universe. And this pure consciousness will continue to exist even after the dissolution of the universe. If something exists before the creation of the universe and before time-space reality, and if something continues to exist after time-space reality and after the dissolution of the universe, then as per logic, that same thing is the only thing that truly exists even in the middle. This is what we need to understand next. So the universe only appears to exist, but it technically doesn't. This is what Vedanta tells us. Let us understand this with a simple example. Let us look at the example of the clay and the pot. Now, the clay exists before the creation of the pot, and the clay will continue to exist in a different form after the destruction of the pot and after the pot is broken into pieces. The clay will still continue to exist. Now let's assume the clay is pure consciousness or God, and that pure consciousness was there before the universe and it will be there after the universe and it is there as the universe. Even when the clay is in the form of a pot, it is still clay alone. Pot is simply a name that we give to that form, and pot is only relevant to the human mind. From the perspective of the clay, it was always clay, even when it was appearing as a pot. This is what we need to grasp. From the perspective of pure consciousness, from the perspective of God, this universe was never created. It is simply itself, always. But from the perspective of the human mind, it seems that a universe has emerged out of nothing. But that nothing is pure consciousness, and that pure consciousness is very subtle and it is out of the reach of human intellect and it is out of reach of human mind. That is why it feels like the universe came from nothing. And since this universe is simply a temporary phenomenon and it will at some point dissolves into that nothing, into that source, even when the universe exists, it is still consciousness itself appearing as the universe, says Ajata Vada. This is how we need to look at reality. We all come from one source. So the wars, the division is simply meaningless. We all come from one source, we all go to one source, and even while we live, we are that source itself. This is Ajata Vada. I hope you found this valuable. If you are interested in these topics about God and the nature of reality, you can check out my book Decoding God on Amazon. Thank you, and I'll see you on the next one.